Good evening for joining 2 3 minutes and we'll be ready to start inshallah.
Doctor,
Yes, I had a disconnection. I will start now.
I wanted to ask about if there's an assignment for like next week or any assignment قريب أو حاجة.
I was supposed to post it on Saturday, but I had a few other things, so I'll post it tomorrow morning, inshallah. Yeah.
Okay. Would it be due مثلا next week ولا إيه؟
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So far no.
Yeah, I mean for everyone. Any other questions? طيب. Please don't forget to sign your participation sheet. If anyone has the link, please put it on the chat window. Okay. Okay.
Doctor, are we supposed to meet next Thursday for class?
Not next Thursday, the one after.
Okay. So every Thursday is gonna be a class on campus starting the Thursday after the next one.
Yes, inshallah, hopefully, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll meet face to face, not this Thursday, but Thursday after, yeah. طيب.
دكتور انا كل ما اجي افتح السبريد شيت بتاع الاتندنس بلاقيه ريد اونلي، هو ده الفيرجن المظبوطه ولا ده واحد تاني؟
مش مفروض يبقى read only.
هو أنا I access it just fine. وI put X عادي وكل حاجة.
You should open it with the Google Sheet, not Drive.
هو مش ده اللي على دروب بوكس ولا ايه؟
لا، مش ده اللي على الدروب بوكس، هو على
اه على ايه طيب؟
على جوجل درايف.
اوكي تمام.
يعني already محمد حشيش has posted to everyone.
تمام ثانك يو. يعني اللي على دروب بوكس ده مالناش دعوه بيه؟
لا، مالكش دعوة بيه.
اوكي.
Before starting. Okay. So, today we're going to have two topics. The first topic is regarding the abstract data types and the separate compilation. This is one topic, and the other topic will be for class templates. Again, we are in the category of OOD/OOP, and this part is more related into the OOP part, object-oriented programming. Currently, we are in Savage chapter 12, and for this presentation also depending on online resources as well. So Savage chapter 12 plus some online resources that I had. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Right. We will start, as I said, we'll start with abstract data types and separate compilation, and later on we will have a look at class template. We will have a look at class templates. Okay. So, what is separate compilation? Before explaining what's separate compilation, I want you to take a look at this file. And let's look at this file together. This file is a normal C++ program, and a normal C++ program, and it contains three parts. The first part is the class definition. The second part is the implementation of the functions that exist in this class. As you can see, you will have those methods that exist in the class. And the third part is the main function. I will repeat. This class has three parts. The first part is the class definition. And what's basically the class definition? The class definition is actually the definition of the class. If you see this part, the definition of the class. So here we define the class, which is a bank account. And here we define the set of functions that belong to this class. And here we define the attributes that belong to this class. So the question is, did we put any implementation or any C++ code for the implementation of those functions, like set, like update, like get rate, like output, like etc., etc.? No, we didn't do. We just have put only the headers of the function. And the header of the function is the name of the function, the input parameters to the function, and the output to the function, and semicolon. And then later on inside the file, we provide the C++ code for the function that is named set. Okay. Then the third part is the main function. The third part is the main function. So C++ allows you to divide this file into actually three files, One file, and this will be known as a header file that will contain the class and the definition of the function. So primarily, you will have one class, one file that contains the class definition, as simple as this. And this file will be called a header file. And it will have an extension which is .h, and it will have an extension which is .h, which signifies that it's a header file. Then I will have another file that contains the implementation of the functions that exist in this class. So the first class is called the header file, and it will contain only the class definition. The second file, it will contain the functions. It contains the implementations of the functions in C++. The third file will contain the main function. So I have three files. One contains a class definition, and this is called a header file. Second, and functions implementation, and this is called the implementation file. And the third one is the main function. So the natural question that you might ask me about it, why should we divide, why should we have three classes, three files? The answer is, when your program is getting bigger and bigger, your application is getting bigger and bigger, so there should be some specialities for the team that is implementing this application. What are those specialities? Some people will be specialized in defining the classes, and some other people will be specialized in the implementation of the functions that belong to those classes and package them into what's so-called a library. So at this moment, what we are doing is that we want to let you build your own library and include your own library. And then a third team will be responsible to use this library and build an application and include this library and any other relevant libraries. So I will repeat why we are doing this. When the application gets larger, So you cannot have all the application in one file, like what you are doing now. When you are doing your project, inshallah, you will not have it in one file. No, you will have your own libraries or your own library, and then there will be another file that will have the application or the main function, the application or the main function. Yes, Ghada, you can say.
Yes, doctor, I have two questions. First one, related to the syntax of function implementation. Um, can you just scroll up to see the function implementation?
Yes, yes. Yes, yeah,
Yes.
Ghada.
About um, why we when we define a function, uh, we are used to write the type of the function like double and the name of the function and the things in the function. But here we type the name of the class and then double colons. I don't get this.
So you don't get what's this? What's this exactly? What's bank account?
This thing, this definition. Yeah.
Yes. So when you did your assignment, ya Ghada, where did you put the function?
Outside the class.
Okay. So did it work? So what does it mean? First, what does it mean? This is the name of the function, right?
Oh yeah, yes.
And this is the name of the class where this function belongs to.
Yeah. Now I remember. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, well, okay.
Okay.
So
Second thing.
what is the
uh,
other question?
يس كنت عايزة أفهم بس هو البروجرام هيفهم منين إن ال 3 files دول يعني بيتكلموا في نفس الحاجة
لا لا.
وهيقدر بقى
Okay.
إزاي.
This
Okay.
is what we will explain later on. Yeah. Just wait. I'm just explaining the idea as high level. Okay?
Okay, doctor.
Okay, right. So I will explain everything. So I'm just explaining the idea as high level. Fine. I will continue what I was saying, that for large application, some people will be specialized into writing a library or libraries, and some other people will be specialized in building the application that will use one library or more than one library. Okay, so this is the basic idea of separate compilation. Okay, so for now you can tell me that we don't need this. Why you don't need this? Because you're doing the assignment. You are one person, and this assignment is really small. But when you will be doing the project, inshallah, so you will be exposed to a large application, and you can't all sit together as students doing the project, and then all of us will be start coding together. This is not going to work. This is not going to work. Now you will be exposed to large applications, and for large application, you will build your own library. In addition to IOStream, of course, and CMass and stuff like this. So So now we will have Rada's library. So we'll include Rada.h. And we will have Yusuf library, we will have Freddy's library, we will have Tamer's library. So, and in large corporations, in software development houses, of course, there are people specialized in defining classes only and doing the UML diagrams. Those people are called designers, or they are called architects. And then there are some other people that will develop the application that use those libraries. So those people are called application developers. So the most senior you are, the more you move into design. After you graduate, inshallah, and assuming that you will work as a software developer, so the first thing they will let you do is to implement a design. And then later on, when you become more senior, so you will design, and you will tell the developer, oh, I am an architect, I am a designer, and then I will put the name of the functions, what is the input, what is the output, and you have to follow what I am saying. You have to implement those functions in C++, in Java, and whatever language this company is using. So someone thinks that design is easy. No, design is the toughest part, and you should be able to learn how to design. So if you have a good design, if you have a good design, then everything, then the implementation is easier. So if we come up with the fashion, for example. So what's unique about Burberry, for example? It's the colors of the Burberry, the design of their clothes. So this is what makes Burberry Burberry. So for pens, if we have Montblanc, so the idea is that it's just a pen. Yes, it's easier and it's convenient and stuff like this. And why Montblanc is very expensive? It's because it's a design. It's a unique design. Google is famous about the search engine, and the search engine is based on an equation. So two geniuses develop an equation that they used for the search engines of Google. So I mean, people who design people who design, they are this is the mind, and people who implement, this is the one who execute what the designer say. So coming back to the main topic, for a large application, you have to divide this application into mainly 3 files. 2 files for a library that you are going to build, and 1 file for the main function that is going to call this library. طب assuming that we have more than 1 library, so your application will use Rada's library and your application will use Freddy's library. So you will have 2 files for Rada's library and 2 files for Freddy's library, and here we go. So this high-level idea is understood by everyone. Tell me if you don't understand the idea of filing and libraries and stuff like this.
اكتر انا فاهم ان احنا بنحط الكلاس ديفينيشن بنحطه في هيدر، بس الكلاس
لا لسه احنا ما اتكلمناش هنعملها ازاي. لسه هنتكلم هنعملها ازاي.
اوكي.
لا انا بتكلم على الهاي ليفل كونسبت يعني.
اوكي.
اوكي طيب. How do we do this? How do we do this? So, putting the class definition in one file is called abstract data type. And what's abstract data type? This is 3 words. Abstract data type. Data type, consider it as one word, and we have abstract. Abstract and data type. Data type, a class is a data type. So data type refers to having a class, and abstract means that we don't have in this file that I am referring to as a library or as a header file. I am not referring to any implementation. It is just a definition file. That's why it is called abstract. That is why it's called abstract. And this file, you include it in your application. This file, you include it in your application. So I'll give you an example that you all know. When I say hash include IOStream, and then I have my main, and then I start making CN and cout. So I ask you a question. Do you know how CN and cout are implemented? No, you don't know how CN and cout are implemented. You don't know. What you are doing, you are just using a library. And this library is a standard C++ library. It comes with C++ language package. So you are using IOStream. You don't know how CN is implemented. Is it implemented as an array? What kind of data structure, etc., etc. You don't know about those details. All what you know is to include IOStream, and this will let you use CN and cout. Yet some other person has implemented IOStream, and so this is called abstract data type because you don't know the details of the implementation. You are going to use the functions of the class. You are going to use the headers of the function that this library allowed you to use. You are going to use, and this is a new word that you have to be acquainted with, you have to use the interface. So the interface. So the word interface, I'll explain it in simple term. When you are using a TV, so the TV, you base on the remote control to control the TV. Do you know how the TV is implemented? You don't know how the TV is implemented. You are using the interface for the TV, and this is the remote control, and this is the remote control. Another example, if you have a car, so when you press start engine, assuming that you have a car that you press only a button without a key. So you press start engine. When you press start engine, خلاص, the car operates. Do you know how the engine works? No, you don't know. You have an interface, and this interface is the abstract data type. This interface is what will let you use this class. What will let you use this class? So this is called the abstract data type. And why do we care about abstract data types? Why do we care about libraries? We care about libraries because we build a library and then everyone will use our library and get the functions that this library is about. So generally, abstract data types or ADT, just in short words, they are used they are they are used they are used uh, they are used to abstract or to be the interfaces for the data structure. So now you know that the data structure is an array. Later on, I think in 106, you had the stacks and queues. So stacks and queues are data structure. So stacks and queues, those are classes that will be built by you. So you make ADT for the stack and the queue. They are data structures, and then you will include them in a header file, and then anyone will use them. So supposedly, Tamer will be building his library that will represent a stack. Freddy will make his own library for a queue, and we will have something that is somehow similar to an array that is called a linked list. So Yusuf will build his library for a linked list, and then everyone will use those libraries. So anyone that wants to use a stack will use the library of Tamer. Anyone that wants to use a queue will use the library of Freddy. Anyone that will use a linked list will use the library of Yusuf. So this is one of the good features of object orientation, which is reusability. You build once and you use many times. You build once and then you use many times. So you build a library and then everyone is using. So Adham, you have a question. Adham? It says,
Sorry, doctor, I was muted. So an example of an ADT class would be stacks and queues.
excuse me?
An example of an ADT class, اللي هو abstract data type class, would be مثلا a class of stacks
Yes, yes,
because it's reusable, or you don't
yes,
have to redesign everything.
yes. So now, in order not to confuse you, you will have three words that are synonyms. Library equal ADT classes equal header files. They are the same meaning. They are the same meaning. Of course, library is bigger than only header files, but yani, assuming that they are more or less the same. So library equal ADT classes equal header file. ADT stands for abstract data type. Data type is a class and abstract because it doesn't provide an implementation. And what is the benefit of ADT? The benefit is reusability. Reusability. So you build once and you use many times. You build once and you use many times. 1 second, please. Okay, let's go into the details how to make this in C++. So, as I said, we have what's so-called an ADT interface, and we said we know now what the interface means. I'm sorry for this lecture, it's not that interactive, but because I have to explain relatively a very new concept. So ADT interface, and this is the .h file, and what's the .h file? It's basically the header file. Okay, and then another file, ADT implementation. It's .cbb. It's .cbb file, and what do you find into it? You find the implementation of the functions that exist in this class. You find the implementation of the functions that exist on your class. So number one, I have the header. Number two, I have the implementation or the C++ code for the implementation of the functions that exist in this class. And number three, I have the int main function, or what's so-called a driver file. So now there's a new word that is called a driver file. And in you that is equivalent to the main function file that is equivalent to the application file. Okay. Okay.
دكتور هو الابلكيشن فايل والدرايفر فايل ده هو الدوت سي بي.
Not the second one. There's another CBB, which is the driver file that contains the main function.
يعني في 2 سي بي بيز.
في 2 CBB واحد .h.
طب يعني in the same project ممكن استعمل 2 سي بي؟
ممكن تستعمل ايه؟
So in the same project can I use 2 CPs?
Yes, yes, yes. I will let you know how to do this.
وايه الفرق؟
ما هو the second, listen, the .h file contains the class definition. تمام؟
ايوه.
هو who's talking مبدئيا؟
انا ادهم.
Okay. The first file is called the header file. It is for the class definition. تمام؟ And the second file is the CBB file that contains the implementation of the functions that exist in the header file.
implementation يعني بكتب الكود بتاع الفانكشن بتعمل ايه يعني؟
بتكتب الكود بتاع الفانكشن بتعمل ايه.
اوكي.
الثيرد فايل هو فيه الانت مين اللي بتستعمل. we will have an example now يعني. The third file we will have the int main. So you will use the class functions that you have implemented. Okay? We will have a clear example in after this slide.
Okay.
Right. Before explaining a clear example, you are all aware with hash include IOStream. You all aware about it. So this library is a standard C++ library, and it will let us use cin and cout, famous cin and cout. So you want to build your library. So to build your library, you have to have a header file. You have to have a header file. So you will include, hash include is the same here and here, but instead of this small and greater than, you will have a double quote, and then you will have the name of your header file, and it will be .h, means it's a header file. So look at the difference. Again, the difference is in less than, greater than, double quotes and double quotes, and here there's .h. Right. How do we this? How do we do? How do we do this? How do we do this? This is a real example of the header file. This is the real example of the CE file. So the example here is that we want to have a class for a rectangle. And what is the purpose of this class? The purpose of this class is to compute the area of the rectangle, which is basically the height and width, which is basically the height and width. So this is basically the idea of the class, which is called the rectangle. Previously, you were putting three things: the class definition and the functions that exist in the class, which is called the rectangle, and the int main. You put them in one file. Now you will have three files. Of course, this is a very trivial example. This is just for demonstration. Nobody is doing this. However, for large application, you will be obliged to implement this idea of dividing the files into a header, an implementation, and a driver file, or an application file, or an application file. So let's see together. So this is the first file. This is the first file. This is the first file. It contains what? It simply contains the class definition. It simply contains the class definition. So this is the class definition. Okay, what is the class definition again? So simply the definition of the class and the headers of the functions only, and of course public and private thing, etc. So this is the first file. The second file is the implementation file. And what is the implementation file? Again and again, it contains the C++ code for the functions that exist in this class. It contains the C++ code for the functions that exist in this class. So basically we have two functions in this class: area and set values. We have two functions that exist in this class: set values and area. What did we do in this file? We are providing, this is a setter for the width and height. So this is the implementation, and this is how we calculate the area. So we are returning the width times the height. So this is the implementation for the functions of the class. So what did we do extra in this file? Extra in this file, we have included rectangle.h. So we have included the file rectangle.h. And what is rectangle.h? Rectangle.h, this is simply the file where we have defined the class, which is called rectangle. So first file is called anything.h, call it anything.h, and this contains the class definition. The second file The second file contains the implementation in C++ for the class which is rectangle.h, which is basically set value and area. And the third file is called the program file. The third file is called the program file, is called the application file, is called the driver file. And what's new about it? What's new about it is that you have to include rectangle.h. So rectangle.h has to be included in the implementation file. Rectangle.h has to be included as well in the program file. And it contains only the main function, and then you define an object of the class which is rectangle, and you use the functionalities of the class such as set value and area. What's new again? You include rectangle.h here, you include rectangle.h here. So look at those three files, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. If you don't understand how did we divide things, so just let me know. Yes, whoever raised his hand.
Oh, I have a couple of questions. Why isn't the implementation file .h file instead of .cpp?
You can do this. However, for large application, it is recommended to have a .h file contains a class definition only, and .cpp file for the implementation as well. And on the implementation, you can include also this, you can have this. So when your application is bigger, it is always recommended to have a header file containing the classes without any implementation. And this is what's called the abstract data type.
Mm-hmm. And I have another question. If I have multiple classes, do I put all the classes in the header file or all their functions in the implementation file, or do I create multiple header files and multiple implementation files depending on the number of classes?
Well, listen. The key word here is that you are doing a library. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have 3 libraries for 3 different purposes, so you have to have 3 header files and 3 implementation files. So assuming that you have a library for a rectangle, another library, of course, this is a so trivial example. A library for rectangle, another library for triangle, a third library for circle. So you have 3 header files and you have 3 implementation files.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this is a very trivial example, but when you have a large application, you will have more than 1 header file and more than 1 implementation file. What else?
That's good.
Doctor,
Hi.
I have another question.
Okay, Abdurrahman.
Oh, I was used to in CS 106 to write the functions like in the class, so like void set values, and then I would write the function. So
Yes.
can I only do like a header file with the functions and remove an implementation file?
This was Adham question. You can do this, but when the application gets bigger, and it is a good practice to have 1 header file containing the class only and another file containing the implementation.
Okay.
But you can do this, of course, Abdurrahman. But in 110, it's better to divide them into 2 classes, and you will see the need when you start doing the project.
Okay. Thank you a lot.
Okay,
Right.
Doctor, I have a question.
Okay.
هو to include the implementation file in the application file, what should I do؟ يعني هو عشان include the header file عملنا ال library بتاع .h.
No. You only include the header file يا غالي.
طب هو
This
البروجرام
one.
هيفهم منين ان يعني اخد الفانكشنز بتاعته وعمل implementation ازاي وده في فايل وده في فايل تاني؟
Okay. This is what I will explain in the next slide. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a good question. Yeah. Thank you. Another question? Anyone doesn't understand what I'm saying? Okay, so let's move. Let's see and answer Ghada's good question about how do we do things. Okay, so as we said, we have the .h file, and then we have the rectangle implementation.cbb. And we have the rectangle application.cbb. So the first file is the header file. The second file is the implementation file where the functions that belong to this class are implemented, and we have to include the rectangle.h. And the third one is called the driver file or the int main file. Okay, so we have to compile two files. The first file is the .cbb file, sorry, the rectangle underscore implementation.cbb, and the second file that we have to compile it is called the rectangle abb. So when we compile a file, someone answers me, when we compile a source code, it is being translated or converted into what sort of file?
Object code.
Object code. Great, Yasin. And what is basically this object code?
Zeros and ones.
Zeros and ones. It's a machine language. Okay. And then whoever knows. So this is a compiler. It will change the source code into an object code. And so we have two object codes. We have two object code. So this is the first object code, and this is the second object code. And then we will have the linker. Someone tells me what the linker is doing?
It translates it back to a high-level language.
Combine
Links the two object.
No, of course not.
combine
It links the two object code together, the one from the library and the one from the code.
Exactly. Oh, yes.
I'm Rana, but I'm using my friend's image.
So you are Anna again, yeah.
Yes.
So okay. So you have Anna and Roa, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot my laptop in the room and I can't enter because I'm in the Zoom, so I have to go to
So Roa is not your sister.
No,
is your friend.
She's not in our class, yes.
Okay, sad story. Okay, let's come back. So Yasin, you wanted to say something?
No, I said the same thing. No.
You said the same thing. So the compiler will compile rectangle implementation that includes rectangle.h. It will compile it to an object code. And then the compiler will also compile rectangle application into an object code. What's an object code? It's a machine language, which is basically ones and zero. Then it comes the linker. The linker will combine two object code together, and then it will create the executable file. It will create the executable file. And what is the executable file? It is the result of your program. This is in your assignment, what you are getting a screenshot for. So the linker will transform the object file, which is .o, into an exe file. And what is the exe file? It is the executable file. So coming back to, yes, yes, Yasin.
Doctor, so when these three files are compiled, they become the rectangle.
Two files.
Okay, so I'm just confused which one, like where does each one come from? The rectangle.o and the rectangle app.o.
So rectangle app is this file, Yasin. It will contain the end function. Fine?
Okay.
So this function will be changed, will be converted into a .o file. So let's assume that this file will be rectangle app.o. Okay, Yasin?
Okay.
And this file will be rectangle, after you compile it, rectangle underscore m.o. Then the linker will combine rectangle app.o with rectangle underscore implementation, which is this file, together and create the exe file.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Who else have a question? Someone raised his hand and then he disappeared. Okay. So we will explain now what is called a header guard. A header guard, so before explaining the header guard, we have said that the purpose of the header file and the implementation file is to have a library. And when we are having this library, this means yes, Adham.
Okay, sorry. It's Yani, I have my hands from last time, sorry.
Yes, okay. So for the header file and the implementation file, we are using them to establish a library. And this library, you make it once, and we will use it many times. So we use the header guards. In order not to redefine the functions and the variables again. So I will give you an example how to use why are we using a header guard. Did I explain header guard? What does it mean? How we are implementing it? No, I didn't. So just wait. So this file is a header file. It's called rectangle.h, and it is being used by two files. It is using by this file. It is being used by this file. And what if another person, so let's assume that this is Adham's application. Let's assume that Freddy wants to make another application called Freddy app. And Freddy application it is also using this .h file. What if I have I will that many files will include a rectangle? Someone has to mute. What if we are using rectangle.h from many files? We are including it from many files, many CBB files. So this means that we are going to execute this piece of code many times. But we don't want to do this because this means that we are going to declare those variables called width and height many times. We are going to declare this function called set values many times. We are going to declare this function called area many times. We don't want to do this. We want the declaration to happen once, and everybody is using this header file. So the header, guys, is preventing us from using a header file many times. A header guard is preventing us from using the header file many times. How we can do this? Let me show you. So we are in a header file. We write before the definition of the class, and we will see this. If in def, what does this mean? It means if not defined, and then you include, then you write any word you want. And it is a good practice to have it in capital letter. It's a good practice that you have in a capital letter. So you can see if not defined rectangle dot h. You can name it anything. Then if then define and the same word rectangle dot h, and then you will write your own class. So class rectangle, and then after the class we say endf. So when the first file is going to include rectangle.h, so the compiler will go to this statement. Did I define the word rectangle? This is called a token. Did I define a token or the word for simplicity called rectangle.h before? No, I didn't, because I didn't include rectangle.h before. This is the first time to include rectangle.h. So if it is the first time to include the rectangle.h, so I will execute the second statement, and then I will come to the class code and define the variables width and height and the two functions called area and set values. Then the other class comes, the other file comes, which is called Freddy app. And Freddy app also uses rectangle.h. So we have Adham app and we have Freddy app. So it also uses rectangle.h. So the compiler checks, did I define rectangle underscore h, this one? Yes, I defined it in Adham app. Then it will not redefine those variables again. I will give you an example about this in the upcoming slide. So this is exactly the same as what we have described before. However, we have added to it the header guards. We have added to it the header guards. So this is rectangle.h. This is the definition of the class, and this is the definition of the header guard. Wait, Adam. Then this is the definition of the header guard called rectangle.h. And then if not define rectangle.h, define rectangle.h. And then this is the normal class, and this is endf. Then I included this file from rectangle underscore implementation, and then I included this file again from rectangle underscore app.cpp. Type. Assuming that we will compile this file, so the compiler will check, did I define rectangle.h before? No, I didn't define rectangle.h before, rectangle underscore h before. So define rectangle underscore h. Then it will come another file. Rectangle underscore h has been defined. So I will not redefine the variables again. I will not redefine the variables again. I will not redefine the variables again. Comes another file, which is called Freddy underscore app, which is called Freddy underscore app. It includes rectangle.h. So the compiler checks, did I define rectangle underscore h? Yes, I defined rectangle underscore h. So it will not redefine the variables again. Type. I'll explain it in Arabic for simplicity, just for simplicity in one sentence. I have عندي الهيدر جارد. الهيدر جارد ده بيبقى موجود في الهيدر فايل. ده بيمنعني لو انا عندي multiple files موجود فيها include rectangle.h اللي هو اسم الهيدر فايل، بيمنعني ان انا redefine الفاريبلز مره ثانيه وثالثه ورابعه. So I define it once and I use it from many files. Is this understood? Any questions?
دكتور هو ايه اللي هيحصل لو هو defined many times؟
هديفاين الفاريبلز كذا مره وده مش صح يعني.
عشان هتاخد سبيس كبير ولا عشان ايه؟
اوكي.
لا ده بقى كأني بقى انت ينفع في السي بلس بلس تديفاين كذا فاريبل كذا مره؟
لا ما ينفعش.
بس نفس القصه.
دكتور
Yes.
هو دلوقتي مثلا في Visual Studio when we add a header file في Solution Explorer يعني my question is next time when يعني أنا هعمل دلوقتي header file في Visual Studio مثلا وهعمل اللي هو header guards وبعدين المرة الجاية أقعد أستعملها في project totally different اللي هو الهيدر اللي أنا عملته ده. do I have to include it في Solution Explorer ولا هو automatically عارف الهيدر اللي أنا بتكلم عنه؟ أكني أعمل library زي IO stream أو CMath أو كده I don't have to include it في مش هقول في CVP بس أنا قصدي في you know the Solution Explorer bar ده؟
Yes I know بس أنا مش فاهم سؤالك يعني.
يعني in Visual Studio when I come to create a project وفي header files كتير I have to add new file في اللي هو الحته بتاعت الهيدر فايلز عشان في حته بتاعت الهيدر فايلز في حته بتاعت source files ففي الهيدر فايلز I have to add them يبقى موجودين.
Yes.
So if I use بقى the header guards بعد كده.
First not if I use, you have to use.
ايوه okay when I use الهيدر guards مرة I have to include the header file in the header file حتة بتاع Solution Explorer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
معلش what is rectangle underscore h؟ يعني هو ده اسم فايل or
Well, rectangle underscore h يا ياسين is basically any word that you want to use ملهاش significant meaning يعني it is only a word that the compiler will use to prevent you from declaring the class again and again. So simple answer, you can say if not define Yasin underscore H. So the best practice is to name it based on the functionality of the class. So if this class is a rectangle, so you name it rectangle underscore H. So this is called a token, Yasin. And this token, the compiler will define this token inside the compiler. And then when you include the file again, so it will know that if this file has been used before, based that Yasin underscore H or rectangle underscore H is defined or not.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah, so it could be any name underscore H.
Could be any name without underscore H. This is just best practice names, Yasin. You can name it like this. The best practice is to have it capital letter and underscore H, just to imagine the just يعني to have a good يعني a good name for it. But you can name it Yasin. You can name it Yasin underscore H. You can name it Freddy. But the best practice is to make it something underscore H, and the best practice is to name it based on the functionality of the class.
Okay.
Okay. So if this class is for a search engine, if this class is for let's say for area calculation, something like this. So just name it area underscore H. If this class is for drawing something on the screen, so drawing, so whatever name you want, Any other question? Type. I leave it 10 seconds and then we will explain something in 5-10 minutes and then we'll be ready to go, inshallah.
So, doctor, I have a question.
Okay.
When I include rectangle.h في الابلكيشن فايل اللي هو بيبقى فيه المين, does it automatically know the functionality بتاعت الfunctions,
Yes.
implementation files? يعني I
Yes.
thought ان هو I include the implementation files مش ال header file.
Well, you include the header file and the implementation file. As I said, you link it. You have the dot O. So the linker will know that this object file is related to certain header file.
Oh, okay. هيعرف لما include الهيدر فايل جوه الامبلمنتيشن فايل ولما include الهيدر فايل جوه السي في بي فايل الاخير اللي هو
exactly. تمام كده. تمام. Right. I will explain in 5 minutes what's a class template, and I need so someone raised his hand.
يس دكتور.
Yes يا محمد.
دكتور
ما سمعتش صوتك النهارده.
معنى النت عندي وحشه قوي. هو لو انا استخدم الهيدر جارد هو مش بيريديفاين الفاريبلز صح؟
Yes.
تمام. طب هو بيريوز الفاريبلز بنفس الفاليوز بتاعتها؟
لا، انت دلوقتي انت بتعمل اوبجكت من
يعني
انت
كل
في المين.
بيفضل ليه
كل
نفس
اوبجكت
الفاليو.
بالفاليوز بتاعته، انا ما
اه
غيرتش
تمام
حاجه.
تمام
يا جماعه انا غيرت في الاستراكشر، بس انا ما غيرتش في الاوبجكت اورينتد كونسبت. يعني انا from here يا محمد this is what you're saying. This is rect of belong to class rectangle. Then I set the values for rect 3 and 4. Then if I have rectangle rect 2, then rect 2 dot set values 5 and 6. Then this is an object with values 3 and 4, and this is another object with values 5 and 6. اوكي يا محمد؟
تمام اوكي.
اوكي، يعني ما تغيروش في مفاهيمكم اي حاجه. This is not a new object oriented thing. This is just dividing what you used to write in one file into 3 files.
هي دي برضه عشان الاوبتمايزيشن كمان، ان انا اخلي البروجرام مور اوبتمايزد يعني وكده.
لا، ملهاش دعوه بالاوبتمايزيشن، هي ليها دعوه ليها دعوه اكتر انك when you are doing large application يا محمد. When you're doing large application, there are specialities. Some people are specialized in designing classes, and some other people will be implementing those classes. تمام؟
اوكي تمام.
Some people will be specialized in making libraries, some other people will be specialized in using those libraries. يعني ده نفس example that I said at the beginning of the lecture. When you are in a software company, you start as a programmer, and then later on you are getting promoted to be a designer. What does a designer do? The designer simply design the classes. اللي هو this is the header file. And then the programmer will do the implementation file and the program file. And maybe the more senior you are, so you design, يعني you write a header file, some other programmer will do the implementation file, and a third one will be using those libraries. Did you get me?
تمام. Thank you دكتور.
Okay حبيبي. So class template, I need a friend with me. We'll spend 5-7 minutes together. So I'll pick Yasin. Okay, Yasin, you're with me?
Yes.
Okay. So assuming that we have the following situation, assuming that you want to make a class for summing integer numbers and summing float numbers and for summing double numbers, or at least for simplicity, for summing integers and for summing float. What do you do, Yasin?
So you create a class, and then do you have a method within that class that sums them, or the class itself sums them?
No, methods.
Okay, so I have a class. Let's call it arithmetic, and inside there we have different.
Yes. I am writing after you. You are the doctor, so arithmetic. Okay,
then we can have private members.
Okay, private members. So assuming that the int and float is not one array. So let's
actually, if they're being passed by the user, we don't need private members. We can just have public methods.
No, that's okay. Whatever. It's
Okay.
not the issue. So what should I define?
So what's the type?
Integer.
So we can say int a, comma b.
So int array of integer.
Oh,
and then let's assume that there are 5
Okay.
numbers. And then another one, another array that says array of float, and then assuming that I have a third array, so I define array of double, and then it's 5. Then what do I do with the functions?
They are public.
Okay, that's fine. And then
So the first function is going to be, we're going to have a return
the
type of int.
int, great, and
And
then I'll call it some ints, some integers, and then I'll pass an array to it, and then the size of the array, this is int, and then I'll have any whatever, I'll pass it as a pointer. Okay, and then I'll have another function, yes?
yes,
So the function is float, and then another function that is called float, and then float, let's say b,
and the size.
and n. And then another function for a double, and then float c int n. Okay, that's it. So this class is supposed to sum the numbers in an array of integer, and this is the first function, to sum up an array of floats, and this is another function, to sum up an array of double, and this is the third function. And we have 3 arrays. Do you think what's bad about this? Someone tell me what's bad about what I'm doing. Of course, it's valid C++.
We're doing the same thing over and over again, just with a different type. So it's inefficient.
Great. We're doing the same thing again and again for one simple thing. And it is even more worse to make 3 classes, one that is called arithmetic int, and another class that's called arithmetic float, and a third class that is called arithmetic double. So for summing integers, we have an array and we have a function. For summing float, we have an array and a function. For summing doubles, we have an array and a function. This is called redundancy. This is called redundancy. So what do I want to do? I want to make a class, a generic class, a general class, and this class, if I want to use a function that its input integers and return integers, I use this class. If I want to use if I want to sum floats, I will still use the same function. If I want to sum the doubles, I will use the same function. So what do? I use what's so-called a class template. And the class template, I'm just explaining the concept. Of course, the C++ part will come next lecture. So the concept is, I will have one function called sum any type. And I will have one array with a general type. And then it returns a general type. Now, this is not a C++ valid code, so just don't judge on me that this is C++ or not. I'm just explaining the idea. So, class templates is used for classes that will do the same thing for different data type. So, assuming, like what I said, I want to sum one time integers, one time double, a third time float. So I don't write three functions. I write one function and I don't define three arrays. I define one array. How do I do it? This is the subject of next lecture and dealing with class template. So last time, class template let you define a generic class. And this generic class is independent of the data type. So I will use the function irrespective that I am summing integers or I am summing float or I am summing doubles. I will have one function, not three functions. I will have one array, not three arrays. How do I do it? This is a subject of next lecture, inshallah. Tomorrow morning, I will have a second assignment, inshallah. Good evening for now. Have a blessed night, inshallah. And if anyone wants anything, so just stay on this session. I will be staying as far as you have questions. So thank you very much and see you next time, inshallah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor. Have a good evening.
Doctor, when will the assignment be due?
I will tell you tomorrow.
تمام ماشي يا دكتور.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you.